You may be Captain America, but you're not Steve Rogers.
You're right. I'm not.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Brianna, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the first trailer for Captain America: Brave New World. And I am so excited about this movie and about this trailer. There's been lots of rumors about production problems and massive reshoots, but I think that's okay. If the movie wasn't working, I'm glad that they had time to go back and redo some things to make it the best possible movie that it could be. And later we're going to talk about the teaser at the end of this trailer for the Red Hulk.
Wait, there's a Red Hulk now?
Yes, but oh man, it's going to be so good. I can't wait to break this down for you guys. But first, I am so excited of finally showing you these t-shirts we've been working on. We have Ross 24, where you can see that he's like all politicians, hiding a secret darker side. And this, I can do this all day, with a history of different shields over the years. Guys, shopping our merch store is the best way to directly support our channel. We love designing these shirts for you guys, and the links for those are below. So first, let me give you a little bit of background in case you didn't see Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or you just haven't seen it in the past 3 years. So after the events of Avengers Endgame, Steve Rogers passed on the Captain America shield to his friend Sam Wilson. But months later, Sam was having trouble with the idea that he could be a new Captain America. So he figured the best way to honor Steve's legacy was to retire the mantle for good. He was also unsure if the American public would ever accept a black man as Captain America, and those fears were exasperated when he met a former super soldier test subject named Isaiah Bradley.
They will never let a black man be Captain America.
Now, Isaiah Bradley actually has a very cool history from the comics. He was part of a regiment of black soldiers who were some of the first soldiers to receive the super soldier experiment drug. It's actually from a great comic series called Captain America: Red, White, and Black, and I highly recommend you read it. So then Sam donated Captain America's shield to the Smithsonian for a Captain America exhibit. Steve's friend Bucky was also dealing with his own issues stemming from his time as the assassin, the Winter Soldier. So the two of them disagreed on Sam's decision to not honor Steve's wishes. Meanwhile, the government decided to promote their own Captain America, a guy named John Walker. Now, John Walker was a noble dumbass with, I guess, the best of intentions, but he ended up secretly taking super soldier serum, and it drove him insane.
It wasn't me!
Sam and Bucky teamed up to take the shield back from John Walker, leading Sam to realize that if he didn't take over the mantle of Captain America, then somebody less worthy would. So then, he and Bucky teamed up to stop a terrorist group called the Flag Smashers, and then Sam spoke truth to power.
You've got to do better, Senator. You've got to step up.
Also, they fixed a boat. But of course, we also have Harrison Ford in this film playing Thunderbolt Ross. And to explain Thunderbolt Ross and his connection to the Red Hulk, I'm going to turn to our very own Colton Ogburn, the guy who's trapped eternally in our television but doesn't know it, so please don't tell him.
Yeah, so in 2003, we got Ang Lee's Hulk, which gave us Sam Elliott's portrayal of Thunderbolt Ross. And while this movie isn't part of the MCU's Incredible Hulk did kind of feel like a soft sequel to this Ang Lee Hulk movie. We actually have a great video up on the channel right now talking about just that. Be sure to check it out. Anyway, 2008 gave us the Incredible Hulk, the second MCU film ever made, and Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross returns, played by William Hurt. In The Incredible Hulk, Ross is determined to capture Bruce Banner and obtain the powers of the Hulk for the US military. And keep in mind that Bruce Banner was trying to replicate the super soldier serum that created Captain America.
So this Dr. Banner was trying to replicate the serum they used on me?
So Ross's failed attempt at recreating the Hulk is responsible for the creation of Abomination.
Is that all you've got?
Abomination, who of course has also returned to the MCU in recent projects like Shang-Chi and She-Hulk.
First off, namaste.
Now, Ross returned for Captain America: Civil War, and we learned that he had become the Secretary of State. And he is one of the key supporters of legislation that would regulate superheroes, the Sokovia Accords.
A great many people see you as heroes. There are some who would prefer the word vigilantes.
And what word would you use, Mr. Secretary?
How about dangerous?
Ross continued to appear in subsequent films like Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame, as well as Black Widow.
Natasha Romanoff is in violation of the Sokovia Accords. She assaulted the king of Wakanda. Make an example out of her.
Now, with the actor who portrayed Thunderbolt Ross in the MCU, William Hurt, having passed away, Harrison Ford has now stepped in to fill that role for Captain America: Brave New World. And we are finally getting the Red Hulk.
They don't want a psycho. They want a soldier.
So the Red Hulk is a relatively new Marvel character, first appearing in 2008's Hulk Volume 2, Number 1, with the help of Intelligentsia, a group that we actually saw introduced in the MCU in the She-Hulk series. They help Ross become the Red Hulk after years of Ross obsessing over Banner's power. And guys, while the threat of Red Hulk is a major one, what's even scarier about Ross in this movie is that he is the President of the United States.
And according to the Supreme Court, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, unfortunately. So Ross becoming the most powerful person on the planet serves as an even bigger threat to the Marvel Universe. And I love that it's a Captain America movie as opposed to a Hulk movie that is going to give us this political thriller about the dangers of a villain gaining the keys to the White House. Something that has become quite popular in recent years with villains like Norman Osborn and Lex Luthor becoming presidents in the comics.
Okay, so that's all the backstory. So now let's break down this trailer. We start with Sam Wilson entering the Oval Office speaking to the newly elected president, Thunderbolt Ross. Now we actually saw this same scene in the CinemaCon footage that Colton saw months ago that we talked about in this video. Now the framing of different political figures in the Oval is interesting. Usually when a person becomes president, they redecorate the Oval Office with portraits of leaders from their party. But here we see Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, but also John Tyler. Now these people were from opposing political parties. They were Democratic Republicans and Whigs. So I think this is a way to show that Ross maybe wasn't even running on a party ticket. But we'll talk about how he won the election a little bit later in the video.
You and I haven't always agreed in the past. Previously.
So Ross is trying to militarize Captain America, which is essentially what they did with John Walker.
But I want to make another run at making Captain America an official military position.
Now, interestingly enough, the government never actually controlled the identity of Captain America, like Val Cooper said here.
It's kind of a legal gray area.
But they want to use him as a propaganda tool, like Steve Rogers was first used for propaganda at the beginning of the first Avenger. And it makes sense that the government would want Captain America to be working for them. He is the symbol of America, and they want to send the impression that superheroes are employed by the American government to strike the fear of God into other nations. And then we see Sam's new uniform, and thank God. Like, his last uniform was very comic accurate, but this one looks way better. And it's interesting that he ends the trailer by saying he's not Steve Rogers, but like Steve Rogers, he's going to be wearing a new uniform in every single appearance that he makes. Now, this opening is showing us how Sam has to live in different worlds. Steve could just be apart from everything. He was able to just be an Avenger and a superhero, but Sam has to play politics.
You've got to do better, Senator.
So here they have this fun interplay where Sam points out that Ross no longer has a mustache.
I have to admit, I'm still getting used to the new look. They said lose the mustache or lose the election.
I mean, I think what actually happened here is that Harrison Ford refused to wear a mustache for this role, but, you know, it's a cute little nod to the fact that he's played by a different actor. We saw a similar nod at the beginning of Iron Man 2 when roadie actor Terrence Howard was replaced by Don Cheadle.
It's me. I'm here. Deal with it. Let's move on.
Now then we see what I think is Ross's acceptance speech after winning the presidency. Notice his campaign slogan, "Ready for Ross." Now, I think this is really interesting because I think what this is implying is he was telling the American people, you've had so much chaos, so much change. Now you're ready for Ross to stand up as a leader. Ross, as we talked about earlier, has a reputation for dealing with superpowered folk, and he would have run on a platform of restoring normalcy and American power. Remember, leading up to this, we just had Secret Invasion. Now, I know that show had its problems, but it did end with a really interesting premise, with Skrulls being revealed as agents within the US government and the president declaring open season on all aliens. I just think that at this point, following those events especially, the American people would be open to just having a normal life again. So they would turn to somebody like Ross who could promise them that they were going to have true leadership and stability. Ross is giving his speech behind bulletproof glass, just like Obama did during his acceptance speech in 2008. And then we get various cuts from like different scenes throughout the trailer, and we're going to take guesses about when this happens. Here we see what looks like Secret Service agents running by this pool, and I think this is after the assassination attempt we see a little bit later in the video. This also, of course, parallels when Sam met Steve during their runs around the reflecting pool in Winter Soldier. And we get this really cool shot of Sam framed within a frame visiting somebody in prison. Now, the frame within a frame is implying that as this version of Captain America, he has to play different roles. He can't just be a superhero, he has to also be a politician, he has to also be a representative of the black community. Now, I think in this scene he is visiting manipulating Isaiah Bradley, who, as we see in a little bit, was brainwashed into trying to assassinate the president. And then we see this radar with the 5th Fleet, which is normally stationed in the Middle East. So this whole trailer is giving me vibes of a Tom Clancy thriller like the Jack Ryan movies, and Harrison Ford famously played Jack Ryan in 2 films. We've had so much MCU that is complicated, like different timelines, different universes. I'm really happy to be getting like back to basics and just having like a normal superhero political thriller along the lines of Winter Soldier. And then we see these fighter jets scrambling over the ocean that I think are Japanese because they're labeled with JPN. Now, the original title of this movie was New World Order before it was changed to Brave New World because New World Order had some pretty hateful connotations. I think what we're seeing here is that Ross is trying to lead an initiative to unite the world governments under one security umbrella. But the villain of the movie, the leader, is going to be manipulating all these countries against each other and maybe into starting a world war over Tiamat.
Wait, what's Tiamat?
Tiamat is the Eternal that emerged from the sea at the end of the movie The Eternals, but we'll talk about that in just a second.
Okay, well then wait, who's the leader?
Oh, right. So the leader is the villain of this movie. Now, we've actually seen him before in The Incredible Hulk. He was Tim Blake Nelson's character who was helping Bruce Banner, but also secretly replicating his blood. Now, you remember, that movie had a really cool tease where Banner's blood was leaking into Samuel Stearns' open wound on his brain, and he kind of smiles. So that's setting him up to become the leader. Now, in the comic books, the leader, I would say he is like the #1 Hulk villain. Like, just how the Hulk is smart and dumb, the leader is like super, super, super smart. It's always been a shame we haven't really seen him in this franchise, so he's coming back for this movie. And then we see Giancarlo Esposito's character, and rumor has it he is playing G.W. Bridge. Now, Bridge was a mercenary who served alongside Cable in a group called the Six Pack. But then later on, he became a leader of S.H.I.E.L.D. No idea what they're doing with him in this movie. At points, it looks like he could be working for the leader, or at least maybe he's working for some black ops unit within the government. And then we see Tiamat and these missiles launching. So, like I mentioned earlier, the Eternals had this really frustrating ending where it looked beautiful, but basically a giant statue was sticking out of the Indian Ocean. And that happened in 2021, and that we have not seen this addressed in an MCU project since, except for this tiny mention in She-Hulk. This is kind of a problem with the MCU right now, where they're releasing so many projects that we're like, wait, how come they haven't mentioned that yet? When in fact, they were probably always planning on making Tiamat a key part of this movie, but it just takes, a long time to make a movie, so we weren't seeing this addressed until now. Now, there have been a rumor for a long time that Tiamat is actually going to be a source of adamantium in the MCU.
Shake on it. Oh, nicked it. Just got the tip with your little steak knife.
So I think what we're seeing here is all these various nations, like maybe it's like an international kerfuffle where no one's really sure who has jurisdiction. But this Brave New World alliance that Ross is forming, composed of the United States and Japan and other nations, is finally going to step up and claim Tiamat's mineral for themselves. Ah, look right here, Harrison Ford is doing the point.
Look, Jabba, next time you want to talk to me, come see me yourself.
Now, then we have this ceremony or presentation that Ross is doing. Notice he is surrounded by this map of the world with various points, probably showing military bases where their new alliance is stationed. Isaiah Roberts is also there because what Ross wants to do is show a united front. He's trying to show that all Captains America, past and present, are behind this plan. Yes, he wants Sam Wilson to be a soldier for the government, but more important, he wants to show Sam Wilson's stamp of approval in his new world order. And then Isaiah stands up and tries to kill the president.
Wait, why did he do that?
Because he's a Manchurian candidate, which is, a famous movie from decades ago, but basically it means somebody who has been mind controlled into becoming an assassin. And I think it makes total sense that he was brainwashed by the leader. In fact, the leader is in this trailer a couple times, and we hear his voice here calling people pawns.
Global power is shifting. You're just a pawn.
Now, the guy with Sam is the new Falcon, Joaquin Torres, who was also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So then we see Sam walking into a bunker, which is probably beneath the White House right after the attack. And then this goes to Sam and Joaquin entering a secret base. Now, we 100% think this is the leader's base for experiments where he brainwashed Isaiah Bradley. It's very similar to the lab he had in The Incredible Hulk. You can even see a similar table like the one he strapped Bruce Banner down to. Now, this action shot, I think, shows Sam early in the movie when he is still wearing his ugly comic-accurate suit that we saw at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But get this, see this guy right here? We think that's Samuel Stearns. In the comics, his head has been mutated to be very large. Now here they've toned down the size of his head, but chances are it definitely makes him look like he's not a human, so the fedora is a disguise. And we also think this is Sam Wilson here, the photographer with green hands. And notice who he's taking a picture of, Isaiah Bradley. His mind control could have been initiated by a certain sequence of flashes of his camera. And then we see a state funeral. Now, this could basically be anybody. We're not going to try to lay out too many guesses, but I am wondering if it could be President Ritson. Like, The show Secret Invasion was very vague about who the vice president was. And Ritson ended Secret Invasion by declaring open season on all aliens, and I really hope they at least address that. Or maybe Ritson's declaration of open season on aliens created such an upheaval that the American people were ready to vote in somebody who was normal like Ross. Followed by a few other action shots. This is a silhouette of Sabra fighting. Now Sabra is played by Shira Haas. We see her right here. In the comic books, she is a mutant and like the national superhero of Israel. And then we see Ross giving a speech on the White House lawn where he is attacked, or more likely, he turns into the Red Hulk. At the very end of the trailer, we see the Red Hulk with Captain America's shield surrounded by these cherry blossom trees. I think this overhead shot is the aftermath of this event, with cherry blossoms on what looks like the side of the Potomac River. Washington, D.C. is famous for their cherry blossom trees. There's even a cherry blossom festival held every year. This to me looks like Sam fighting G.W. Bridge, who you never know maybe has been tasked with bringing in the Red Hulk. Then we see Sam in the laboratory hallway fighting a couple of goons, so this tells us that Samuel Stearns is not acting alone. He has been using the past several years to build up his own private army of henchmen. Now I love this cut of the trailer where Sam throws his shield and then they make it look like his shield is like blowing up the White House, but we know what's really rampaging through the White House. That is the Red Hulk. Now at the end of the trailer, we see Sam fighting those same Japanese planes when probably the president would have ordered him not to do this. This underscores how at the beginning of the trailer, his main question was,
and if we disagree on how to manage this situation.
In this same fight, we also see the new Falcon, Joaquin Torres, and then, like I mentioned before, this shot of the Red Hulk at the Cherry Blossom fight. Now, I'm glad they showed the Red Hulk in this trailer because, frankly, he was already spoiled by a few McDonald's toys, so it's not that big of a deal anyways. But you never know. Maybe Ross does not turn into the Red Hulk. It could be somebody else, and Ross is just a red herring.
Oh, ha, 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 I get it.
But either way, I am very excited about this movie. I cannot wait to see how this forwards the MCU. And you guys know the MCU has like different areas. There's the mysticism area, the big multiverse area, the cosmic. But I think what we've been missing the past few years is this. Very grounded, basic, relatable superhero fights. The kind of fight where somebody can get shot and they actually feel it. So I'm very excited about this movie. But if you are excited, let me know down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.